Welcome everybody. Together with Helge Brühlheide, I would like to introduce Z2 as the central project on data management and synthesis in Multitrof. And on the Chinese side, we are supported by Huijie Qiao and Xiaojian Liu. Both data management and synthesis are crucial for large research consortia such as Multitrof. And previous endeavors that were able to rely on efficient data management structures, such as the results that we see here from the YINER Grassland experiment, have enabled a better realization of how diversity effects propagate from plants to higher trophic levels. And these studies, again results from the same study system, have shown us how these effects are related to ecosystem functioning, here indicated by these circles and the size of these circles indicating energy flow from plants to other ecosystem compartments in the higher trophic levels. Importantly, such synthesis work has particularly shown that species composition and functional diversity, and therefore network structure, play a decisive role in the context of these findings. But apart from case studies of mostly individual bipartite networks, such as this grassland plant herbivore network that we see here, we only have very limited insights into this matter across networks within ecosystems, especially for species-rich forests. And this is where BEF China and Multitrof come in, which feature both long-term data and exciting new avenues for network studies in forest ecosystems. The main objectives of Z2 are, first, to bring together the wealth of data that we have assembled in BEF China over the last 14 years and the data that will be generated at high resolution in Multitrof to enable a better understanding of how network structure, the diversity across multiple trophic levels and ecosystem functioning are connected to each other, for which our own work, such as here on plant caterpillar networks, or on how the effects of different components of tree diversity propagate to higher trophic levels, has laid an exciting foundation to build on. And second, to ensure proper management and handling of the data that will be generated in Multitrof, and to enable proper use of the available data from our BEF data portal, which already holds more than 600 data sets so far. With the synthesis part of Z2, we want to test the expectation that tree diversity effects on higher trophic levels are dependent on the structure of the interaction networks that link these trophic levels, which we will address in a first work package looking at multitrophic network structure and its relationship with biodiversity. And we want to test how such modifications of diversity relationships via network structure and multidiversity affect both process rates and the variability of ecosystem functioning, which we address with a work package linking networks, diversity, and ecosystem functions. For the first work package, we will characterize the structure of both antagonistic and mutualistic interaction networks that are available and which will be newly created in Multitrof. And based on metrics such as connectance, nestedness, or modularity, which are related to specialization, complementarity, and redundancy of interactions. We will look at the average correlation strength of these metrics across all networks and integrate these correlations into linear mixed effects models and structural equation models, with which we want to link multiple components of tree diversity with network structure and with the diversity across multiple trophic levels, and where we can at the same time test how much these relationships depend on and are modified by, for example, network type, ecosystem compartment, or the spatial configuration, so the environmental context of the study plots. We can further test, and this is our second work package, how much the influence of network structures, tree diversity, space, and abiotic environments change along ecosystem development for several ecosystem functions for which we have data since the establishment of the experiment, such as herbivory or the trapnest data that has already been mentioned in subproject 4. And we will specifically relate network characteristics and multidiversity to both individual functions and their variability, as well as to multifunctionality, which we want to characterized using multifunctionality indices, but also by calculating energy flow and storage across trophic levels and the entire networks using direct process rates or calculating metabolic rates. For both, we already have extensive data collected in BEF-China, and these will be supplemented by species-specific data from the multitrough subprojects, all of which puts us in a great position to develop early synthesis.
The key for this is a functional and efficient data management, which is also part of SET2. The objectives here are to prepare datasets, which includes curation of raw data such as calculating network metrics and standardization of metadata, to establish automated workflows that integrate all steps in the life of data from permits to final repositories, and to provide training and capacity building to all users of the data portal, also helping with data evaluation and code pipelines. These objectives are mainly service to the whole research unit, but part of it is also development of the management system. So why is development important? This can be illustrated by how data management in integrated projects has developed. In the past, that was before BEF-China, we had something like a metadatabase. 3 exemplary users have one Excel sheet each with metadata M each that are then stored in a metadatabase. Now, if another user wants to link the data, the yellow data with the blue one, he or she would have to find ways to put them together manually, with all the difficulties to get a match of row names. In this respect, the BEF data portal we are currently using has made a great step forward. We kept Excel sheets because this has been shown to be the most efficient way data users collect and correct the data, but then using EML, Ecological Metadata Language, which is a readable XML markup syntax for documenting the data. Instead of metadata, the original data D is stored, and a user who wants to combine data gets them in a harmonized way. If this works so well, why we have to develop the system further? This is because the present BEF data is only a part of the whole data workflow in multitrough. It starts with a work permit, describing in which parts of which plots which analysis is planned to avoid disturbance and prevent redundancy. The work permit is approved by the BEF-China steering committee, of which 2 SET2 PIs are members, Zhao Zhenliu and me. Then we have the data collection, storage and retrieval part as before. If it then comes to publication of these data, paper proposals have to be submitted, also showing which datasets on the portal are used. Again, this avoids redundancy, but also gives ample opportunities for cooperation on papers. Then the synthesis of different datasets takes place, and finally, the data are published, sometimes with their manuscripts, sometimes as data papers, in all cases with a DOI. We aim at developing a pipeline that connects these 5 steps. The third objective is to provide training and capacity building, for which we have a long-standing tradition, as illustrated here for joint Sino-German courses on data management. We will also maintain a permanent help desk, establishing a ticket system which both will support data generation, documentation, building pipelines, using R-code in archiving and publishing data. The proposed central project SET2 is linked to all other sub-projects in SET1. In addition to supporting efficient data management, SET2 will provide multi-diversity and multifunctionality indices and facilitate early synthesis. Vice versa, SET2 will receive data from all other sub-projects for BEF data and for network analysis across all traffic levels. We also have long-term plans based on the networks generated in multitrough that go beyond co-occurrences and enable a detailed assessment of how redundancy and complementarity across networks affect multi-diversity and multifunctionality. With increasing amounts of data coming in from all sub-projects and all other projects on the BEF China platform, we will be able to construct networks of networks, also called multi-layer networks, like the one of Shai Belosov and colleagues on root parasite plant networks on the left-hand side and plant herbivore networks on the right-hand side. We also want to create networks across different plots, such as the meta-network of Philippe Librand-Mbit on plant pollinator networks on 29 calcareous grassland fragments. SET2 will be supported by our Chinese colleagues, the plant ecologist Zhaozhen Liu and the zoologist Huizhi Zhao. Zhaozhen Liu will study the role of trophic network metrics on herbivory plant productivity relationships and on plant productivity itself. Huizhi Zhao is an expert on ecological niche modeling and has substantial experience in biodiversity and will support the data management on the Chinese side. Huizhi Zhao wants to study the dynamics of trophic community stability and complexity. While Zhaozhen Liu has already secured CIS funds for her postdoc, Huizhi Zhao plans to submit a Sino-German proposal. With this, we come to an end of all our presentations. Xie to all of you. I want to close with a Confucius quotation. The essence of knowledge is having it to use it. We hope that our proposal and our presentation has convinced you that we have brought together the knowledge to understand multi-trophic food webs and forest ecosystems. Now we hope that you allow us to use this knowledge and to carry out our project.